jokes aside, this is such an interesting place for me. I was out in here yesterday reading what you have to write, and not only is it impressive, it gets me thinking, but there's so much opportunity in here to ask questions. Thank you for adding to the Padlet over the past 4 or 5 days. If you have not added to the Padlet, just pick up on any purple posts. You're working with the purple posts for generating some new writing. And I think I need to do something with my list here. Lee, I need to make you co-teacher. There you go. Okay. We're going to spend a few minutes now working with this purple post here, examining the problem inherent in your topic. We learned this word, I think, back in September because it's one of my favorite words. What does inherent mean? Examining the problem inherent in your topic. What's another way to say that? Are you using the chat? I know you're just waking up. It's okay. Yeah, so Jimmy said, and if someone could volunteer to read out the chat today for people, that would be awesome. So really inherent is like to be a part of, right? So this is inherent in your topic. There is a problem. There has to be a problem in your topic. If not, then you don't have anything to write about, right? And it should be a problem that you feel is like that urgently needs your attention or our attention for society. These questions are questions that will help you get at the urgency inside this problem. And I'm going to give you 6 minutes to do some writing in this purple post. And does somebody have the link that they can share? Hold on. Okay. I'm trying to get everybody on. Okay. So I love this quote. Does someone want to read this quote with joy and happiness? No? Where are you guys? Where are you? Where are you? All right, this is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before. True. Think about that. Like that quote, that sentiment changes my entire outlook, my entire being. So let's just think in the chat or out loud. Today is a good day to, or today is a good day for. What is today a good day to do? Today is a good day to do what?
Okay, so my intention with this is to show you the mini lessons or the part of the lessons that, especially for the juniors, you may have missed, and then as seniors, I believe many of you missed this as well. So please watch this so that you're on track and we can begin again together when we see each other.
All right, so for today, we have really focusing in on research, right? So what does it look like to research for your op-ed? And it might surprise you. It's very different than, let's say, a research for a research paper. We're going to do some research in a group, and you are going to go back to the Padlet and leave some comments or questions that pushes the writers of other posts to think about what kind of research they might find. All right, just make sure you have your notebook somewhere handy. For those who are asynchronous, your notebook might be in Google Classroom or OutSchool or another place. my students, our notebook is in Google Classroom under the new notebook post. And then we had our Padlet. And for those of you who've just joined us, Haley or Lee, if you can put the Padlet post or link in the chat for them, that would be amazing. And shout out to Lee for being our co-teacher for this course and holding it together behind the scenes and making breakout rooms, which is a lot harder than it looks. Okay, I'm going to jump into the lesson. So when we think about research for op-eds, right, and really any type of research, when I was in grad school and doing research, when in undergrad, right, so you're going to go to college and you're going to have to come up with evidence, and you're really looking at two different types of research, or you might do your own research, right? Like right now, in fact, right now I am doing my own research, and I posted on Google Classroom a survey for you to do that is part of my research project. So if you could please do that survey, it's 5 minutes, not now, but on your own time, that would be really helpful with my research. And that type of research is qualitative. So there's quantitative at the top and then qualitative. Has anyone ever heard of these two terms before to describe research or evidence as being quantitative or qualitative? No? Quantitative, and you can think of it like, the quantitative would be facts, figures, data, more like math and science, charts, graphs, right? You can actually count that, right? Qualitative, you can't really hold it in your hand and count it, right? Qualitative would be more like anecdotes, personal experience, observation, quotes from other op-eds that you pull, and we'll talk about doing that for your research. Ronald mentioned, I believe it was Ronald, in your Do Now Padlet, you mentioned social media influencers. So I'm going to ask you in a minute if you could speak in the chat or out loud, what were you thinking when you said social media influencers? And we'll get back to you to think about that. Why is research so important? Obviously, it's evidence. So when I say the word research, you can think, okay, this is evidence, but you are researching the evidence. Of course, it backs up your position, and this is huge. It builds your ethos. It builds your credibility as a writer. It leverages it lifts up your writing and builds your ethos. One way to appeal to your audience. So have you all done Google searches? Do you know how to do Google searches specifically for what you want? Yes, Carlos, thank you. Quantitative statistics, absolutely, thank you. Has anyone ever done more advanced Google searches? Because you are an expert if you've done it. Let me know if this sounds like something that you've done before. Yay, Carlos. Do you want to help me out here? So I'm going to get us started, and then Carlos, jump in at any time. The best way to do research for something specific is quotation marks. And putting quotation marks around a phrase that you come up with. So if I'm doing Second Amendment gun control, Carlos, what types of phrases might I put into the search bar? Let's just kind of try something right here. Second Amendment gun control.
I guess you would put either gun violence or gun ownership, like the percentage.
Yeah, let's try something. So, gun ownership, and you're specifically talking about but it's almost because you're specifically talking about what with gun ownership?
I guess.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I guess I'm talking about the people who own the guns, like the as far as like percentage wise, like where they live, who they are, what race they fall under.
I mean,
I would probably do Massachusetts.
okay. So see, so one way he can go with his research is this, but what's so that he's dealing with a specific problem, which is the right to own guns for people of color, right?
Especially like in the inner city too.
Right. So this is the challenge then. Like, what types of phrases can he put into the Google search bar? This is one of them, but that doesn't get at the inequality or limitations around the Second Amendment for people of color, and that's the problem that he's researching, right? So it's kind of like it's like a word puzzle. You want to put in the words that spit out or produce specific articles. The magic and the frustration around using quotations in no one's here. The magic and frustration in using quotations in searches is that the order of the words has to be exactly how it's going to be in an article that it finds. So that's the challenge with using the quotations around your phrases. The benefit to that, does anyone know why we're using quotations around specific phrases we want to search for? Why are we using quotes? So here's another one, right? So this is just going to give you these specific words. And if we didn't put the quotes, of course I spell limitations wrong. If we didn't get the quotes, it's just going to come up with like gun ownership, right? And so if you can think of your problem and you're going to extract specific words that describe your problem, and notice that Carlos can go in any direction. He can go limitations, he can do this. However, if I don't, look at this. Look at this. Here we go, Carlos. You have a lot of stuff to look for. But let's say he does this around it, that limits it a lot. So he might not want to use the quotes for that. So experiment with putting quotes around it, your phrases, not putting quotes around it. This, I think, is the fun part. I think you're either going to find this fun or frustrating, depending on sort of like your personality and what your mood is. But think of it like a puzzle. So I'm actually going to share this with you as well. For our asynchronous folks, you actually have this slideshow in your notebook, in your course book. It's always located at the beginning of your course book. If you can go back to that. For my class, I did put it in here. We're on slide 103. You might want to go back to this. I will also tell you that I took all this information from a source that I found from the New York Times, and I put the link to this article on how to use Google searches effectively on the research pages in your notebook. And I am going to take a second to plug these pages because I think there's a lot of good information for you between pages 16 and 17 in your notebook. But here is the link to the article that I got this information from. So I'm going to put the link to the New York Times article that you may be interested in as well if you are interested in searching for things. You can also, and I actually did not know this, so you tell me if you knew this, but if you go to Google and you want to limit your time frame, have you done this? You probably have, because you're better at this than I am. See the tools underneath the Google search bar? There's setting, there's tools. If you click on tools, you can limit, and then you go to any time, and you can say in the past month. So if I'm really looking for gun control or gun rights and limitations for people of color in Boston, I may want to zero in on the past year in particular. Yes, Carlos, can you please tell us what that is all about?
Google Scholars is basically just like a bunch of like I want to say like college and like professors. It's a bunch of like students, like academic people, and they share their work, and a lot of it's like PDF files or like articles or case laws, like stuff like that.
And so you're going to find different. Look at this. It looks different. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually need to put that in the notebook. I appreciate it. This is going to be more academic. You may want to go this route. The difference between Google Scholar and just what you're going to find on Google, there's this idea of primary sources and secondary sources. Does anyone want to help me out with that? I did not make a slide for this, but Carlos, thank you for getting us in this direction. Oh, not primary scholars, primary sources and secondary sources. Does anyone know what these may be? If I pull up an academic paper on the limitations of gun control or gun legislation for people of color, and it's an actual source. There's not a source that comes before. This isn't a commentary on it. It's an actual research. This is your primary source, right? If you go to the source of the research, the source of the graph, right? Otherwise, what you're doing is secondary research. So I was going to focus more on that. You can do primary research, absolutely, but most of the time, right, what you'll find is the secondary. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If you go to page 8 in your notebook, or watch me go there if you don't want to go there, these are the op-eds that I found to kind of center our course. And if I click on this article, don't call it racial reckoning, okay? And this is by a lead person, a writer who's very well respected, Michelle Norris. But I'm going to look for the research that she cites or the evidence that she cites. Here's the first one, okay? It's hyperlinked. There's no parenthetical citations in op-eds. So you want to look for the hyperlinks in your op-eds. That will lead you down what I call a rabbit hole, right? Because it's going to go further and deeper into more source material, all right? This itself, her op-ed, she's not, let's see if this is a primary source. She's citing another Washington Post article as a source, and she hyperlinks it in here. So she got the idea from another writer in the Washington Post, and she cites this one, right? Because she wants you to know that this is backed up by data. But again, this is another source citing Juneteenth, right? She cites CBS News. So what I'm saying to you is that in your op-ed, I'm not expecting you to do original research, right? I'm just expecting you to find other conversations about your problem, other conversations about your topic. Cite what other people are talking about out there. Again, Ronald, what do you mean by social media influencers? How might that be considered evidence or research for your op-ed?
Because like usually with social media, since it's a huge platform with like millions and millions of like users on it, maybe like some social media influencers, they have their opinion in respects towards like different events, and their fan base may like tell them regarding like the data they're like following without like doing research on a particular subject, and they just like bandwagon the wave, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. What you're doing, right? You could essentially pull a quote, right, from a social media influencer and cite that quote from that person. I could pull a quote from Michelle Norris's article, her op-ed, right, and hyperlink it to this article in my op-ed. And what I'm doing is I'm referencing other conversations. I'm alluding to Michelle Norris's writing. That's where I got my idea, right? So for instance, if I'm going to take, she does cite actual Right here. She has 76% of Americans said. Instead of including a citation in this actual writing, she hyperlinks it. She does not explicitly say, I found this in this article, and this article found it from that article. She just hyperlinks it to where she found it. And let's see, it's right here. It's a New York Times op-ed. So Michelle Norris doesn't take us to a scholarly article where it was first published at 76%, here, she found it here. Okay, does that make sense? So don't feel like you have to go out, and Carlos, to your point, Google Scholar is absolutely fantastic. You can definitely go in that direction. Or you can take your information from if a media or a social media influencer posted or a writer posted in a different context. And then the way that you cite it is hyperlinking, which is honestly, it's completely different than what we do in a formal academic paper for high school or college, right? And I'll talk more about hyperlinks tomorrow. Okay. I talked about this. We just talked about it right now, right? Going down the rabbit hole of clicking on different hyperlinks. I always like to click on hyperlinks that I see. That'll send me to somewhere else, and then I'll go somewhere else and somewhere else. And that's a great way to do research to find what you're looking for. What I want to do is spend some time together. You may work independently if you wish, but to spend some time finding some sources for your topic, right? And let's say 15 minutes of searching, Google search or what have you, social media search is fantastic as well. And you're benchmarking it against the criteria on slide 105. I'm also going to put this criteria in the chat. You might add to this criteria if you think I'm missing something. Definitely add to it. And we're going to come together as a group. You're going to share what source you found most effective, any research tricks or strategies that you used, how you found that source. Yes, the slides are right here. If you have any questions or need some more information on what research for op-eds look like, tomorrow I will show you how to make a hyperlink real fast and why colleges are considering what we call hyperlinks in academia. It's a new thing called hypercitations. And so this is a great article to read from Slate, why some colleges are looking at starting to honor hyperlinks or hypercitations instead of a more MLA formal citation, parenthetical. All right, so Carlos, I am going to call on you to share out an article that you found that looks like it's a strong article. We're going to end with his sharing. Please go back to the Do Now Padlet and answer those questions or revise or add on to. I really want that to be a living conversation. Please come tomorrow with a strong article or source that you feel that you want to use. And Carlos, do you want to tell us about yours?
So yeah, what was it called? So on the Padlet today, when I was doing the purple questions, I saw that you had written on the one we did last time, and you actually asked me, he was like, how do I know that it's easier to get a gun in Boston than the rest of Massachusetts? I was looking for evidence on that specifically.
Great.
I'm gonna just.
Yeah, thank you. And I will continue to leave questions like that tonight.
So I found this article, and I found it by going through I was trying to see how people would get a firearm in the rest of Massachusetts as opposed to just Boston. And I found this guy. It's kind of old. It's like 3 years old. It's not that. And yeah, long story short, he basically said the thing was it's not as hard as you think. Like it's easier than you think. And then I got to the part which I'm gonna use specifically, where it was like in order to get a firearm in Boston, you have to pass the Moon Island qualification test at the police academy, which means you have to shoot 25 of 30 shots into a bullseye. And even for a regular gun user, like a regular Second Amendment hunter, or whatever, that's a nearly impossible challenge to do.
Can you go up to the, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but can you go up to the actual title? And we're going to start with Carlos tomorrow. This is fantastic. Can you tell me the specific words that you used to find this? Do you remember?
Firearm in Massachusetts. It's in the title.
Did you put quotes around it or no?
Yeah.
Carlos, let's start with this tomorrow. This is fantastic. I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to honor our class schedule. Excellent work. Thank you. I will be leaving some questions like what I left for Carlos's post on your post tonight. Please go back to the Padlet and use it as a source. Please come in tomorrow with at least one source that is strong that you can share with us. I appreciate you all. I will see you all in less than 24 hours. Oh my gosh. Today, I've never seen one like it.